Alright, looks like I have hit the button. So we begin another broadcast day and such. Do the usual crapola and try to arrange things so I can efficiently navigate and fulfill my responsibilities to create a coherent stream of whatever this is. Yeah, okay. So, I guess we'll draw first. Yeah, what the hell. That would be the thing to do, and I guess we'll do that by getting where we need to be. Okay, so now we know where we need to be later. Alright, and then we'll get rid of that. And we'll get rid of the little chat thingy. Well, we can shove that over here. So we'll do that. Not that it matters much. Anyway, not that there's all that much action. Anyway. Alright. So, simple argument about this argument against kinetic energy and their mathematics and their formalizations. And so the battle is between, just understanding that it's just a component of mass and a component of velocity that creates all the energy in the universe. So you just see something, if it's got a mass and it's moving, then it has what's called energy in the universe. That is, it can transfer that movement to something else with more or less mass or the same mass. And it can do it completely or incompletely. So it can give all of its velocity or part of its velocity. But it can't give more than 100% of whatever it has. And all it has is mv. That's the contention. They contend that the real universe is made out of something called 1/2 mv squared. That somehow this formalization says that if there is a mass, the faster I make it go, it's not proportional to its mass anymore. The velocity component gets more exponentially more and more important, and the mass less and less important in terms of what its quantity of motion is. Alright, so they create a formula where they do their switching and bullshit, where they say, well, the velocity is the distance divided by the time, and the mass is, well, they can't really turn mass into anything else. Anyway, they do their little fractions and they cross stuff out and they do all this bullshit and they come up with some kind of idea that they can mesh these two ideas, that this idea and this idea are both valid, even though they're completely different answers to the same question. That is, if you have some other case than the case where the mass stays the same, okay, the fact is you're going to have answers that aren't going to be compatible. One will say, what's the energy? And it'll say 100, and the other one will say 150 or whatever. It'll actually say 200 because of the square. Anyway, so you'll get completely different answers. So somehow they thought combining these formulas makes sense, and that implicates this kind of an experiment where they say things like, I've pointed out, they just made up these words. They say momentum, that is, this kind of energy is some sort of vector. That is, it always goes in a direction. And somehow this energy doesn't always go in a direction. It's somehow just poofy. It's just it's like some kind of aura of energy, and it doesn't have a direction. So the kinetic energy of the 10-ton train coming right for you is somehow magically everywhere, and the momentum is heading right for you, which is also just silly. So they've created some idea that you can have something called a negative momentum. Okay, so you can have something where you create motion in the universe and somehow negative motion, that it somehow undoes some other thing called a positive motion. And you can have plus and minus motion. And no, you really can't. It's just too silly. But anyway, so this is the experiment. I've mocked and ridiculed as just crap. I've shown that when an MIT professor tried to demonstrate it, he had to cheat all over the place to get the experiment to work because it's ludicrous on its face. It's just baby talk. It's silly. It's nonsense. It won't work. Because it's free energy, frankly. It's free momentum. You can't make free momentum in the universe. So the idea is you put a 1 kilogram, let's just say, or 2 kilogram, masses on frictionless environment, and you give this one, let's just say 100 momentums, that's the MV, and you just smash it into this one, okay? And the idea is this is what their formula, their mathematics, that's so important, says happens. It says that this one will leave with 2/3 the velocity. Okay, so even though it weighs twice as much, I will somehow impart on it 2/3 of my velocity instead of half. The idea would be is the teeter-totter, the lever kind of teaches us that you have to balance these things. And so if you put a 2 mass here and you put a 1 mass out here, one distance, 2 distances here, 1 distance here, the math will work out, and you'll say, yes, you get twice the motion from this object you get from this object, that is twice the velocity, and the momentums equal out, and it works just fine, it balances. They're saying they can do this 2/3 thing. They can break that rule that you can only have 100 on this side and 100 on this side. They say, no, you can have more. So they end up with this idea of 2/3, which, would be you go in with 100. So just think of this as a black box, experimental box. You go in with 100, and 133 pops out the other side. Now, 133 is more of this stuff called energy, in a vague, broad sense. So it's free extra zoom coming out the other side, momentum. And because you get a reflection of 33, that somehow undoes this 33 here, this negative 33, magical negative energy, and that somehow that's conservational. So you didn't make free energy, even though obviously there's ways of understanding it where, no, you did. You made free energy going both ways. I mean, it's all extra. It shouldn't exist because you only had this going in. You can't make more. So I have pointed out that there's different ways I could manipulate this with efficient devices. And so one would be a cylinder where I put the 100 in here, and who cares how it comes out here. 166 is not going to happen. I'm not going to be able to put 100 into the machine and get 166 cylinder motion. So let's say these were cylinders, and they could move in and out. I can't push in here and expect to get 166 out of here. Nobody would expect that to happen. I can't throw a ball against a wall, a tennis ball, for example. If I throw it against the wall, I can only expect to get at best 100% back, a perfect reflection. And then if this thing moves at all, that is, if any of the energy goes into it and stays in it and causes motion, then I'm going to get even less back. The more this moves, the less this reflects. And all I can have is what I started with. I can keep my 100%. And in any experiment, that's all I can expect in terms of the motion, is to keep 100% of the motion. The quantity of motion can't change. It has to be conserved. Momentum has to be conserved. So even though Professor Lowen overtly says these words, nature can deal with kinetic energy one way or the other. Nature can't finagle momentum. A day later, he does this wacky experiment where he creates free momentum in a direction. And it is free momentum. It's extra in a direction. And I could just keep putting it through the same experiment and just increasing it by 33% each time I do the experiment. So it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't work here. It doesn't work here. It doesn't work on a pool table. It doesn't work anywhere. It's garbage, junk, silly, nonsense. Reasonable people should be able to understand this sequence of logic is broken It doesn't make any sense. You can't say there's conservation. You must conserve the momentum and then create an experiment that creates more. You can't do that. And in the opposite case is where they have, I convert a 5-ton train by dropping weight on it into a 10-ton train, and somehow, even though I conserve all the momentum, that is, I end up with a 10-ton train going half the velocity. They say I lost half the energy. Half the energy's gone. And we can know that if it is gone, if I don't get 100% back, like I said, in that case, we do conserve the momentum, so I do get it all back. But if I don't see in terms of a reflection and a movement in this direction, if I can't add those up to come out to 100%, then I have to figure the rest is heat or sound or something else. So in the conversion of for example, the conversion of the 5-ton train into the 10-ton train or vice versa, I mean, if I just do these two cylinders together, I can expect this one to go twice as fast. So if I put pressure on these two, the same amount of pressure, I'll expect to get twice the velocity out of this cylinder because it's twice the surface area, blah, blah, blah. And if I get less than that, then I have to figure there's heat or some other kind of loss. But it all has to be conserved. You can't get any free motion in the universe. You have to get it from something. You have to tap it. You have to steal it with a water wheel or some other device and take what already exists in the environment, or you have to blow up some chemistry, which does create energy in both directions, but it's not subtractive energy. The light bulb isn't creating negative photons in the opposite direction. There's only so much energy goes in, and a total wattage of photons comes out in all directions. I don't get 100 watts this way and then I get 100 negative watts the other way or something. That doesn't happen. All right. So I think that's enough of a context. So we're having this argument, and they're calling me an imbecile and an idiot and all these names, that I'm somehow deficient in my reasoning skills because I don't accept that it is possible in this physical universe to create free momentum in a direction or in multiple directions. I don't think I can put wattage into a light bulb and expect the negative momentum tons to undo the ones going the other way, and I get my light for free. I can only create, I can only convert momentums. I can't create momentums. You can't destroy energy, you can't create energy. It exists in the universe. It merely moves from one object to another object. That's all that can happen. All the rest are fables and stories told by people that, and they have no evidence for these fables and stories. So this this Parr fellow, is just a horrible, awful liar. So I have requested that if he's going to make some kind of counter argument that's at all fair, it ought to deal with the point I have made that I can create a device to capitalize on your retarded theory, and it would be a free energy device, and it would solve all the energy problems in the universe for humanity, because we could have an infinite theoretical supply of free extra momentum. And he should respond to that argument if he's going to have any credibility. So he has posted some 2-minute and 36-second video where I suppose he's going to propose this theoretical obstacle to capitalizing on his silly foundational understanding of physics. Anyway. Let's see. Gary has been explicitly asking over and over again. Yes. So why should I have to do it over and over again? Why take this long before you finally get around to addressing one of my counter arguments to your silly, nonsensical crap that you're spewing? Okay. Over and again, to draw the free energy device and explain how this is possible. No, I asked you to explain why it it's impossible. Why your theory of energy can't in any way be realized. That I can't take advantage of your silly notions of reality. You're claiming it makes the 133 extra momentums. I'm arguing that, well, I could clearly figure out how to collect that. So if it's you're claiming it's real, I'm saying it's not real, because if I build the machine, it's not going to happen. What you say will happen, what you predict, will not take place. It will not produce this magical 133% of the energy increase. Fuck tard. Alright, so again, he can't narrate his own videos. There's never a 5-minute window for him. You know, it's only a 2-minute, 36-second video. I guess he could, you know, find 2 minutes and 36 seconds where he could talk to the camera. Anyway. So he shows this picture. Right. It's pretty much the idea. 1 kilogram, 2 kilogram. He could have put the numbers in here. 100, 133, 179 or something like that. 228 or something. So you've doubled your energy by the time you get to 8 kilograms. You bang the object into a lever, which will just reverse the unit distance. The momentum will be conserved by the lever, and the fact is you'll just be able to start over again with 200 momentums, and so then you'll have 200 and you'll end up with 300 here. So you start with 100, now you have 300, hitting this lever again, pushing the whole object forward again, and you just go around and around, capitalizing on the 33 going this way, the extra. Now you could also capture this 33 going the opposite way, but who needs it when you have an infinite supply of energy? Why would you bother wasting your time collecting you know, the other 33, because you've already got the free 33 in the one direction. And here is Gary explaining his argument. So you'll play me explaining, but you won't play you explaining. Okay. Fair cop.
Okay, reduplicate the experiment. So you just start off with a small mass on a pendulum, let's just say, doesn't matter. You push it in with energy into the 2, okay, and then you hit that into a 4.
So we already illustrated the argument. There's really no point in playing this. You know, I'm wishing for you to explain how it doesn't work.
Okay, then you hit that into an 8. Okay. All right, so you're doubling the mass each time, the impacts, and you're increasing by, well, I already figured it out, and by this time you're up to like almost 300.
Okay, we'll go over here.
All right, so when you're back
what's
to
the
a 1,
point? I mean,
okay,
yeah, I've already made this argument.
You're supposed to be obligated to do that.
You're supposed to respond to the argument. You're not supposed to play me making the argument. You're supposed to provide a response to the argument. How does this device not work? I don't know what he's doing here, right? If this is the whole video, we're really fucked, aren't we?
Yes, here. So you just keep doubling the velocity. With each run, you're doubling the velocity, doubling the velocity, doubling the velocity, and you can take all of that energy off the system. So you just basically have a free energy machine.
All right, here we go. In the next slide, you'll see the numbers, velocities, momentum, masses. It's the idea that each time you let the mass collide into the double mass, into a double mass, etc., forever, which basically boils down to Gary's argument. Yeah, we already got that part. Dum-dum-diddy-dum-do. So, yes, the momentum keeps increasing and increasing, even though the initial momentum was only 10. Okay, so you're conceding the argument that you're creating more and more momentum in a direction, and you're basically saying that somehow that's not real energy. So more momentum isn't more energy. Only energy is energy somehow. Okay. And I'm arguing clearly that there's lots of ways I can convert the momentum into what you call energy, okay, lighter things moving, and I can't, in fact, make more. So he's not going to provide a counter argument? I don't know. All I can say is that if you take the sum total of the recoil momentum, so why would I do that? Why do I care about the recoil? I don't have to pay any attention to the recoil at all. I have a box. I put 100 in. Who cares what happens this way? That's dead to the universe. I just care about the fact that I have 133 coming out. I just put into a new box. 33 going the other way doesn't mean a damn thing. Doesn't break my illustration at all. Doesn't break the diagram. Subtract that from the final momentum, it will equal the initial momentum. Yeah, so what? Made up number going one way, subtract a made up number going the other way. That's just nothing. That's not an explanation for how the machine won't work. But then we're dealing again with a negative momentum discussion. No, we're not. How does the negative momentum cause the negative impact? How does it stop me collecting the 133? I put 100 in. I have 133 coming out. How does the 33 going that way stop me from collecting this? I mean, it's retarded what you're saying. Somehow you're saying the recoil of the gun stops me from collecting the energy of the bullet? How so? How does the recoil of the gun stop me from collecting the bullet's energy? I mean, what a lame fucking argument. There's no counter argument here. Nothing. So that's all he's going to say. That's all I have to say, yeah. So he has no argument. He's saying, okay, yeah, it's a paradox, it's retarded, it doesn't make any sense, yeah. So I don't care, I don't have to make sense. Yeah, that's what he's saying. It's not about you making sense, right? It's just about you telling everybody else what they have to think because you're so much smarter than they are when you're completely unqualified to make these choices for people, to make these arguments, and you're demonstrating your lack of qualifications, but you can't answer a simple question. Why does the device, the free energy device, fail by your theory? What keeps it from working? If any of my subscribers would like to add something, feel free to do so. So what a pile of lame shit. So I waited 2 years for that? Yeah, pretty much suck. Okay, not much to say. So let's see what the little commenters did to this. Great job, Dispar. You really answered that question. I mean, amazing. So he sits there and says, let's see, what else? He added some more crap that I guess he couldn't fit the text into his 2-minute video. It's mainly about understanding the conversion of energy within the lever or the pressurized vessel. There's lots of different ways to do the conversion. You don't have to use a lever. You could use gears, or you can use pressurized cylinders, or you could use a lever. Yeah, and the idea is this: all those things conserve momentum. So I can do the transfer between the 8 kilogram and go right back to a 2 kilogram or a 1 kilogram and then restart the experiment all over again with more velocity. When the background, I don't know, strikes the lever, the 8 kilogram strikes the lever, and let's say 2 meters per second, and therefore 16 momentum, then the 1 kilogram at the bottom must lift off with the same momentum as the lever is balanced. But then its velocity would be 16 meters per second, right? So it's obviously going much faster than it did the first time you did the experiment, so you've doubled your speed. However, if the 1 kilogram lifts off with the same velocity, then its momentum is only 2. So I don't even know, it doesn't obviously lift off with the same velocity. It's impossible, so make up another fake circumstance. One might ask, where did the other 14 went? To be continued. There's no... Continue with what? Drivel. It's just drooling. You're just drooling. Okay. I've already patented this, John Walker says. So obviously, I own the patent on it. So I can prove that in court, jackass. So you'll lose in court. Because I'll prove I said it first, fuckhead. Alright, I think that's unfair. Don't Gary discover this? Yeah, Ian says. So that's their response. Okay, I point out how it's paradoxical. I can make a free energy device out of your theory. Your theory produces an output that's easy to capitalize on. I'm just explaining how the river's flowing. I'm going to stick a water wheel in your river, and I'm going to collect the energy from your river. You're supposed to explain why the water wheel won't work. Oh, so lame. Look at this. They give these 3 ups, 5 up, 4 ups for nothing comments. Absolutely nothing. They didn't say a damn thing. I made a mistake. In Gary's free energy device, the velocities also keep increasing and increasing. Where, no, the momentum always stays the same. But you're the one arguing that you're increasing the momentum. If I was making the device, yes, it's not going to work because I can't make free momentum. It's your theory, okay? Your theory says the momentum, it keeps increasing. And the velocity doesn't increase. It only goes up by 2/3. 2/3 is not an increase in velocity, is it, moron? All right, so he says the velocities also keep increasing, whereas you let the mass collide with a double mass into a double mass, etc. The velocities become smaller and smaller. Yeah, the weights are heavier, the velocities are smaller, but the momentum is much higher. That's the problem. You're increasing the momentum. So all I have to do is convert the heavy 8 kilogram thing going very slowly into the 1 kilogram thing going very fast again. And that conversion's easy enough. So Godfrey doesn't know anything about physics, so this will be a joke. That's right. I made the same point about velocities here, so this ought to be funny. Velocity decrease heading towards 0. And the mass is exponentially increasing. And still an increase in fucking goddamn momentum. So again, they're pretending that if we wait till the end of the universe, the free energy won't work anymore. So if you go all the way to infinity, it won't matter. Because you'll run out of infinity. Something like that. I mean, what a stupid... It's like one of the people in one of the forums conceded the argument. Conceded it's a free energy theory. And his argument was it doesn't matter if it's free energy. Because if you go all the way to the end of the universe, okay, you can't do the math anymore anyway. So it doesn't matter that you have more energy left over. Something like that. Gary's approach is ignoring whatever facet of reality doesn't conform to his intuition. So again, I'm asking you to explain how the device won't work. Your obligation is to say something like, well, levers don't conserve momentum. That would be an argument. So go ahead, say levers don't conserve momentum, and then I'll use the cylinder thing. And then you say cylinders don't conserve momentum. And then I'll use the gear thing, and I'll say, yeah, they conserve momentum, and you'll say, no, they don't conserve momentum. So as long as we understand, you're arguing that there is no law of conservation of momentum. You're saying none of these devices conserve momentum at all. They throw away buckets and buckets of momentum. All right. At least half of the momentum is destroyed by your conversion device, is what you're saying. Okay. Either that or he's retarded. Yeah, whatever. We know who's evil and stupid. And a defender of, wife battery. Here's a guy who defends women getting beat up because they asked for it. Now you know the red numbers aren't velocities. And actual velocities get progressively slower. So what? The mass is getting progressively larger. If the mass gets larger and the velocity goes down, it's fine. Okay, because that's how you do m times v. Doesn't matter whether I do v times m, right? It could be written as v times m. It doesn't have to be written as mv. It could be written vm. Retard. Yeah, so he's going to talk about other people being retarded. He can't see the difference between which one comes first is fooling him. All right, heading to 0. Yeah, and the mass is heading towards infinity. So what? It's never going to get to 0, jackass. Are you still committed to your free energy by banging light things into heavy things? Bullshit paradox. So that's his response to the paradox, is this great sentence. Boy, that sure defeats the argument, doesn't it? We'll just jump a little tiny bit ahead. I won't play this person. I won't watch his videos. I'm not, because he's invaded my privacy in disgusting ways. He's a disgusting, horrible, awful, unethical, shitty human being. He should be in jail for slander. He has stated I have defended and stated things I have never stated. He's a terrible, awful, disgusting, putrid, lying sack of goddamn shit. All right, and yes, someday, okay, if I'm proven right, you will pay for what you've done. The illegal crap you have spewed. It's illegal to lie about other people, and that's all you have done. You have not honestly paraphrased my remarks or quoted them. You have lied about what I have defended or stated. And you're just a sick, stupid, petty, impotent, okay, weak person that has to resort to cheating. And you've cheated this argument. So instead of explaining how the free energy device won't work by physics law, okay, and instead of defending your theory that there is no conservation of momentum law, all right, you do this lying instead. So fuck you till dead. All right, anyway, so I think that's it. All right, so we'll see if there's anybody shows up to say anything else, or we'll just make it that simple. So we have no counter argument. So the Brozo, all the rest of them didn't show up here to make any kind of comment. Oh, wait a minute, what we got here? There's a Brozo. Oh, that's the wrong video, sadly. Yeah. Oh, I didn't read his second comment here, but there's really nothing in it, so it really doesn't matter. So he's just he got the wrong idea, so he spends a whole paragraph. Oh, I'm sorry, I had the wrong impression. Let's see. I think the video linked to is about. Oh, and then he just talks about his stupid cars. You know, he banged his cars 36 times into each other. So he did a very imprecise video over and over and over again, and then claims it tells us something. So, you know, where he over-compressed the springs, or, you know, didn't pay any attention to all of those requirements, you know, of consistent release mechanisms, all that kind of stuff didn't make any difference to him. All right, so, yeah, no point. All right. So he has promised, Brozo has stated that he redid the billiard ball experiment, and he came out with perfect 1.4 results. And that was 4 weeks ago. And he was going to show it to us ASAP. He was going to, you know, the big proof. So we still haven't seen that video. Still haven't seen any indication he's going to produce that video. Even though he's apparently a rich man now. You can't even pay somebody else to produce the video. So, yeah. Anyway, all right. So that's where we stand. All right. So I will put the chat crap over here, I guess. And I guess I can just get rid of this and fuck it. Yeah. And so we'll give you 5 minutes or so. If nobody's around, then we'll just call it a quick, to the point video. And so I don't think there really hasn't been any comments anywhere else. All right, let's see. Well, let me do this first. I guess I could just put this on top of that. Yeah, what the hell? That I could do. All right, so just somebody ragging on the Psi-Man guy. Can you explain the electron is a clump? Can you explain the electron is a clump? I mean, charge is a known phenomenon, and I'm just saying it sort of goes all the way down. So there's all kinds of indications of understanding that charge is in quanta. So you have this idea that charge, what is the electrons, the surfaces of, you could charge a little piece of styrofoam plus and minus, and you can watch the reaction where they attract each other, and then you can charge them with plus and plus, and you can watch them repel. So you can know about what an object is behaving as, and then you can do experiments that basically indicate that the only way this charge thing is acquired is in clumps, that it's an amount, a certain volume. And so you don't add like 0.6 ounces. It's either a full ounce or nothing. So it's like a full unit of charge has to go in. You can't have a half a charge or a 3/4 of a charge. It's only a unit, 1 unit. So that's why electrons seem a pretty good idea, that an electron is a clump or a particle or a vessel or a bucket or a thing, because it brings this charge quality in units, in clumps, indivisible clumps. Yeah, that's good enough. Alright, this was some video with poor math or something or whatever, but yeah, I already reacted to that, so that doesn't mean anything. Let's see, I don't think there's anything on the website worth my time anyway. Can you react to more Julius Sumner Miller physics video? It was entertaining to say the least. Yeah, well, I don't know how much that wears off after a while, but yeah, I was going to do the 3 he did on Newton's laws, and so that they're worth playing. I mean, obviously, to me, it's it's not very well reasoned physics, in the sense that his conclusion. Well, see, he plays with momentum in all the videos except the very end. He says, "Very important thing," mv squared, but he doesn't explain why it's an important thing. So he basically just does all momentum experiments, okay, to explain Newton's laws. And then just at the end he says, yeah, well, there's this kinetic energy theory, and it's very important. So I guess that's worth playing for that point. But I don't know if it's, I don't know how worth it is. Alright, so there's 9 people viewing, so if they really can't come up with a single, all 9 of them can't come up with a single comment, then I guess I'll leave. So that's not... If there was 3 people, okay, then I would feel some obligation. But 9, that's enough for somebody to say something relevant. Ooh, I didn't realize how dumb they are. Or something. How could people be that stupid to sit there and defend free momentum? I mean, how can you have more mass or more velocity for free? How does the recoil of the gun, deter the bullet from moving? I mean, you could argue, if they did have uneven momentums, see, they have the same momentum. The gun recoil and the bullet, same momentum. It's only the kinetic energy thing that has 1,000 to 1 difference. The bullet has 1,000 times more energy than the recoil of the gun by their theory. So you could argue that if you could get more and more energy into the recoil, then the bullet has to go slower and slower, like the ball bouncing. But again, it's an explosion in the gun case. You're not converting an amount of energy and then dividing it into 2. You're not hitting 2 billiard balls with a ball in between, and shooting them off, and then making some dopey notion that somehow one side subtracts from the other side. You're saying you only have 100% of the energy. You can't produce 133% going one way and 33% going the other way and saying, somehow I conserve the momentum. It's just too fucking silly. All right, it looks like we have some kind of statement. Let's see. Look at that. I'm working. It's hard to comment. Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, well, there's obviously if you're working, it's probably hard to think about what's being said and all that kind of stuff too. So I don't know. You probably should decide to do one thing or the other, either work or listen to video or something like that. I don't know. Doesn't really matter much. I mean, entirely. I mean, you either have a question or you don't have a question. You either have something to say or you don't have something to say. I'm just saying it's arrogant physics, right? I mean, they're telling us it's true. I showed how Professor Lewin's experiment has glaring flaws. I mean, there's clay stuck on the cart. Besides all the other problems, that's pretty glaring. So it's obviously suspect that he actually did the experiment he stated he did. But it's it's a on its face, that's all they have. So I say there's no 1/2 mv squared. Their counter argument is to show me clay experiments where they drop round things into clay, and to show me this dopey experiment. And that's supposed to convince me. So instead of showing it taking 4 times the fuel to move anything twice as fast, like anywhere in the universe it takes twice as much energy to move something twice as fast. So even if I flick my finger at something, they're saying it takes 4 times the energy to flick the lighter object twice as fast. No. I mean, they're saying it takes twice as much in that case, where I have half the mass and I flick it and it doesn't go twice as fast. But in the same case, I flick the same thing. I hit the same thing. Flick the same object. They're saying to make the same object go twice as fast, I have to flick with 4 times the energy. Not just twice, 4 times. I lift 5 pounds. It takes 4 times the energy to lift, that it took to lift 2.5 pounds, right? I don't know why I picked these numbers. 2 pounds and 4 pounds. So whatever amount of work it takes to lift 2 pounds, I have to use 4 times the energy to lift 4 pounds. That makes sense to you? It's not twice the energy? So if I lift the 2 as 2-pound units, it only takes twice the energy. But if I lift the whole 4 pounds at once, that somehow takes twice as much energy. I mean, how can that make sense to anyone? Anyone. I mean, the most despicable, retarded hater. How can you possibly keep defending something that doesn't make any sense? It takes 4 times the energy for me to lift the same object. Do this twice. I used 4 times the energy. I didn't use twice the energy. I used 4 times the energy. That makes sense to you. Fuck. Honestly, can stop referencing Lewin? Honestly, can we stop referencing Lewin? I read up on why he was fired. It's disgusting. I don't know. Obviously, it's disgusting in the sense that, fuck. You don't expect it. Okay. So, yes, he was, flirting with his students or whatever you want to call it. I don't know if he ever showed his penis to any girls or something, but yeah, obviously he was making solicitations in a sense. Something like that. So how many guys have been caught, with their hand in the booby jar? So I just mean that that's such a typical failure that, it's almost unremarkable, but it really doesn't have anything to do with his physics, right? I mean, come on. It's not like he's still an MIT professional physicist. Okay, yes, the fact that he broke some codes of conduct. I mean, he didn't rape anybody as far as I can tell. So I mean, I didn't see any evidence of that anyway. But yeah, it's creepy and unfortunate. And obviously it was to MIT's advantage to keep it as quiet as possible. I mean, and so they negotiated a settlement that I think is just hilarious. Like, he gets his pension, plus he gets to own the videos. I mean, there's lots of things that just, they really should be the property of MIT, not the property of Walter Lewin. But whatever. I mean, the world sucks. Again, I'm not defending. I don't. So it's an awkward circumstance, but I'm certainly. I personally would never become a teacher because I couldn't say I would be immune to, whatever. I mean, I know I would be in principle immune, but I'm just saying it would be. It's awkward, being in that position. So I wouldn't like it. That's all I can say. I mean, I wouldn't. It's not like you even say I wouldn't trust myself. I would. Okay, I trust myself. Even if I got married, I would take it seriously. Okay, so even if everything went to hell, I mean, I wouldn't cheat until I was divorced or something, just out of principle, because you made a commitment and all that kind of crap. You signed a contract. I take contracts seriously. So when I signed the contract and it says right there, don't fuck around, jackass. You have a responsibility to these students to never exploit them, blah, blah, blah. Okay, then I'm not going to. I'm just saying that we already know that men are fucking disgustingly easy to seduce out of their principles. Yeah, it's sort of unfortunate about a lot of these cases because, sometimes these people are guilty of very small crimes. And it's just way exaggerated. It's like they put people in jail. I mean, I've stated this before because they bought some porn, okay? And we consider that a violation of the law because you have a fetish for the wrong kind of porn. I don't think that's a criminal act, frankly. Looking at pictures is not a criminal act. So, I find it, but, the person's for life labeled a sex offender, all this kind of stuff when they never imposed on anybody. So I just, I don't like that it's in principle poorly done. So every time somebody's guilty of this Me Too thing, it's all to different extremes, and that's the, sadly, it all gets clumped into one kind of, like they're all guilty of the same rape, and it's not really the truth. So as unethical teachers go, I think Lewin was less guilty than a lot of them. So, I mean, than the average, let's say. But maybe that's just because we haven't gotten the facts. I mean, I don't know whether he ever slept with one of his students. I mean, that's the, I don't know if that's, so how far you go. Now, the truth is Feynman did the same thing. So Feynman was guilty, and I think he actually did sleep with his students. So, I mean, he did fuck them. Yeah, so, I mean, that's, But, like I said, I like to keep it on the subject of the physics, not the subject of the character of human beings or, physics teachers. But, yeah, it's hard to not realize that their character is part of the both subjects have an element of character in them, the character to face the real argument. So the Dispar guy kind of showed in this video they didn't have the character to make a counter argument. to pretend he's making a counter argument by saying, I don't know, blah, 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 blah. Can we change the subject? Because, yeah, I can't answer that question. The subject is the question, and the questions that are related to it. You have scant evidence. I'm pointing out how one of your experiments has a gaping flaw in it. Okay, free momentum. That's pretty bad. That's a pretty big flaw, in my opinion, in your theory. And here's your evidence. This is all you've got. I mean, I could do the round surface argument again. So look, they only have these 2 experiments. This is all there is on the entire internet demonstrating kinetic energy. Is this silly free momentum experiment and the silly let's drop round things into clay experiment. I really don't want to do that again. But obviously round things have a very different surface. The flat surface at the bottom, it's pushing down, and on the sides it's pushing sideways. And the deeper you go into the clay, the deeper the roundness goes into the clay, the more it starts pushing clay sideways, and the less percentage of the clay it has to push down. So you can clearly understand that, as it goes further into the clay, it gets a little easier to go through the clay because a greater percentage of the clay is being pushed sideways rather than down. So that's it. That's all they got. They don't have any experiment showing the 4 times the fuel to go twice as fast. They can't show it taking 4 times the energy to flick it twice as fast. They'll be flicking the same thing. It takes 4 times the energy if I double the thing's mass. Lifting babies or something. It takes 4 times the energy to lift the 60-pound baby than the 30-pound baby. Well, child. Maggot. Human maggot. It's just so bad. So 2 years, and I just and I can't get any concession that this is shitty physics they're selling. It's a lemon. This car doesn't have a steering wheel. It doesn't have wheels. It doesn't have fenders. This is what do you have here? You have so little evidence. You're saying it's 1,000 times more energy coming out of one end of the gun than going the other way. And yet you'll recite Newton's third law to me like it means something. What does the third law mean if the gun proves it not to be nonsense? I mean, serious nonsense. 1,000 to 1 difference. Somehow the bullet has 1,000 times more energy. 1,000 times. I mean, really, 2 years to get no answer to that simple question. How can it make sense? How can I have 1,000 times the energy go this way than that way, and then believe the third law that there's equal and opposite reactions means anything at all? How can they possibly sell that bullshit? Alright, it seems like Mindless Marbles just gave up on arguing the argument. Hasn't posted in a month. Well, I don't think that means anything. He doesn't post very often. He's posted comments, and like last week or something, I think there was one. Yeah, like a few days ago, he's making some defense of some horse shit. The stupid Ian Gosling video. He thinks that's real. He really thinks it takes 4 times the energy to compress a spring twice as much. So even though it only takes twice the weight, it takes 4 times the energy. Twice the weight compresses a spring twice as much. But somehow, that's 4 times the energy. That's what they're saying. I'm not making it up. I'm not distorting it. I'm not doing it. I'm just plainly stating that's exactly what they're claiming. I mean, they won't say those exact words because, yeah, it sounds crazy. But that's exactly what they believe. Yes, it's twice the weight. Yes, lifting twice the weight is 4 times the work. That's what they're saying. And just to think, for 2 years, nobody can just say, no, that's not right. I know that can't be right. They can't even say anything, even something a little bit vague. They can't concede that that doesn't sound very sensible or logical. That there's something else that's got to be going on here. You can't have it that way. You can't say those things together. You can't say, yes, twice the weight compresses the spring, but that's 4 times the energy is now stored in the spring. You can't do that and be sensible. All right, 2-minute warning or something. There's 12 of you here. You should be able to produce 1 comment every 3 minutes. Some kind of rule. Some relevant comment, by the way. Something that, inspires progression in the conversation in the positive physics direction. I just have to do what I said I would do. I have to write my own. I have to write my own chat because you can't do it. So you could just say, how could it be possible that they could create extra momentum in a direction? That doesn't make any sense. And then I could elaborate. Yeah, how could they do that? How the hell do they think it could have more momentum heading in a direction? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I have 100. I say the magic words. There's no place like home, and I tap my heels 3 times, and all of a sudden I have more momentum. I mean, it's a fairy tale. This is, this Oz theory of theirs. This can't be the real place. There's not a real place. There's no real physics that can do this. All right. There's only 11 of you. I lost 1 of you. What a shame. Yeah. So disappointed. So, all right. So we'll call it a video and such. Made my points, stated them well enough, blah, blah, blah. The counter argument is vacuous and off subject, and so I win. I've done my job. That's all I can say. I've attempted to engage their argument fairly and constructively, and they have produced nothing but we're the majority, we're right. We all believe it, so it doesn't matter whether it's true. It's a popular idea. Isn't that all it has to be? Is popular? It's popular to believe the gun can make 1,000 times more energy go one way than the other way. It's popular to believe so. There we go. Good. Virgo. Watts are not momentum. What does that even mean? And why does that mean anything to me? Yes, they're in different units. But so you're basically saying that you don't have to tie watts to amps and volts, and you don't have to tie watts to velocity and mass in terms of the joule. The joule is a watt. The joule is connected to mass and velocity. And again, so we're just back to the same argument that, yes, I'm saying that your definition of what a watt is bullshit, in the sense that your fake watts that you will create have never been collected. You're saying the bullet creates 1,000 times more watts. That's the outcome of your theory. You're saying that if I collect the energy from the wattage, if I turn the bullet into watts of energy, and I turn the recoil of the gun into watts of energy, you're saying, okay, that the bullet creates 1,000 times more wattage. So for every 1 watt the gun recoil creates, I create 1,000 watts with the bullet. I'm saying you've never done the experiment ever. There's not one single experiment you can show in the history of your theory demonstrating that to be true. So link me to the experiment that shows your definition of a watt being produced as an actual amount of energy. Show me the bullet doing 1,000 more horsepower of work than the gun recoil. Show me. And you won't do that, because in 350 years you have no evidence backing your squaring of the velocity. It was always a bad idea. It was never proven with evidence that's credible, and that's the history and the facts. You have no physical evidence of your definition. So I'm saying watts should be momentum, and they could be. Like I say, the electrical watt is valid because it's based on amps and volts, and you don't square the voltage, so you don't break what a watt is. But in the case of energy, you've broken what the wattage is because you're squaring the velocity for no reason. No rational reason to square the velocity. 4 times the distance in gravity is only 2 times the time, 2 times the weight, 2 times the velocity. That's it. 2, 2, 2. No 4. 4 is nothing. Doesn't mean anything. 4 times the distance is useless because you did it in only twice the time. You can only collect gravity in units of time. Alright, electrons have to move at the same speed to have the same momentum. Duh. So who's argued otherwise? Yeah. They can have various momentums because you can move them at various speeds. Simple enough argument. There are no negative values in physics. I don't know where you got that from, frankly, but whatever. Question mark. Is there no negative values in physics? I don't know what that means, so it's not very useful. You can use positive and negative just as we put positive and negative on protons and electrons. One of them isn't really positive and one of them isn't really negative. They're just inverse. Up, down is not plus, minus. I mean, I guess the simple argument is as long as you understand that a negative doesn't mean more than the conditional circumstance. For the purpose that you're using it for, you can say up is positive and down is negative and use a sign to indicate one is up and one is down, that they're opposite things. But that's all you're really saying. One of them isn't truly anti. You are un. Anyway. Let's see. Caucus accelerator he built when he was 17. I don't know what that even means. What's that connected to? So, Akaku, I guess that's how you're saying his name. Yeah, he built a magnetron or something, you want to call it that or something. I mean, it was this tiny accelerator, so get real. But whatever. I mean, I put together Heath kits. I mean, that's all he really did, right? So he had a privileged little bit of a life, and so he got this, science fair kind of thing. And there's probably kids right now building robots at 13. It would be kind of silly to say he did anything miraculous. All right. He had ins, you know. It's like Degrassi Tyson would. Who would Degrassi Tyson be if it wasn't for Carl Sagan, you know, adopting him as a, you know, surrogate son? Therefore, you can't with collide. Boy, these are really badly written. I got my cursor in the way. Therefore, you can't with collide the same mass of electrons. Whatever. And reflect. What the fuck? Fuck you. I mean, do better. Write better than that, or fuck off. I mean, your commentary, your statements of, your emphatic statements of how things work doesn't mean anything. You have to make a logical argument defending your theory first. You say electrons magically move. I don't say that. I say they're moved when they're propelled by a force. And the force has to be continually fed by some mechanism. They have to take the energy and keep it to keep moving. Oh yeah, your commentary is really quite useless, Virgo. Because, I mean, I already talked about how the electrons, I drew it just for you. I've already done this. I've explained that it has to go through the procedure. You hit it with force, the force will push it, then a counter force stops it. It doesn't reverse it, it stops it. And then it has to be pushed in the other direction with more energy. But whatever. I wouldn't call it a small 400-pound transform iron 20 miles of copper. Well, whatever. But whoever you want to hero worship, go ahead and do it. I'm just saying he didn't do anything like he did some magical trick, okay? I mean, he got the blueprints as a kid and he followed the diagram. It's not, you know, and it's a shitty accelerator, so it isn't anything. I mean, it's a model. It's not a, you know, it's not a productive toy. It doesn't do anything. It's Tinker Toys. So what? I mean, all of us couldn't do it just because our parents wouldn't let us have $500 worth of electricity. You know, I mean, you know, there's lots of reasons why I wouldn't be allowed to make an accelerator, because yeah, they wouldn't let me spend whatever $1,000 on copper wire. I'd have to deliver a lot of fucking newspapers to do that. So I'm just, whatever. You want to hero worship? Hero worship. Okay, Akaku is somebody to you. To me, he's a fucking Looney Tune, alright? He talks complete, made-up, phantasmagorical shit. Alright, and his whole defense of UFOs, is that what you like him for now? Is because he's the defender of UFO theory? Yeah? Fuck you. How would you generate free energy from electrons? I'm just telling you, well, I guess you could just do this experiment. One electron hits two electrons. Okay. So, I don't know. I'm not really worried about electrons. That's not the theory we're arguing, frankly. We don't have any electron experiments that demonstrate this effect, okay, that we know about. Now, certainly in accelerators they do. So they calculate how much energy came out of an experiment. They calculate it. And the calculation, in my opinion, is bullshit. Because every time they bang a heavy thing into a small thing, they end up with free energy. So if that's the answer you want, how do you generate free energy from electrons? You do it with a fake formula. That's how you do it. You can't do it for real. You can only do it with your fake formula that claims somehow that velocity is more important than mass. And there's absolutely no evidence, no physical evidence in the record indicating that velocity is more important than mass. There's no evidence of your theory. All right, 6 Gauss magnetic field and consumed 6 kilowatts of energy. So you just keep doing it. Okay. Fine. What do you think it is? You think there's something special about the accelerator except making electromagnetism to steer what you can't see, frankly, the beam or what's in the beam, and that this is a miraculous achievement, that he followed the blueprint and made the device. Okay, fine. If that's your definition of a miraculous event, okay, fine. If that's the virgin birth for you, fine. I'm not impressed. I mean, Tiger Woods is a great golfer because, he was made into a great golfer. I mean, frankly, right? Instead of spending his childhood delivering newspapers and doing other crap, this is what he did. He played golf. You want to think that's miraculous? Go ahead. I mean, clearly there's people that are exceptional at things. Do you think there's any evidence that Michio Kaku, a string theorist, really, too silly almost, what did he do with the rest of his existence? So after he did his miraculous, I built an accelerator at 17, what did he accomplish? Exactly. If I go out and find the Michio Kaku papers that he wrote, are they going to be on any subject I can actually demonstrate to have anything to do with reality? Did he invent, lighter toilet paper? I don't know. Anything? Stronger paper bag? I don't know. Anything? I saw a picture of him with the accelerator. It looked like a pile of shit, frankly. So I'm just saying, okay, fine. Whatever. This is just so funny. People are just... I wonder how much you had to be obsessed with this subject to know this 400-pound transform iron and 20 miles of copper. Well, I guess it might be in some article somewhere. But obviously, every transformer has lots of copper wire in it, so there can be a mile in a little transformer in one of your electronic devices. So, a mile of wire isn't, exceptionally huge amount of wire. 2 electrons would move slower, twice as slow, when one electron collides with them. My point is you can't have this scenario with the same mass. I don't even know why I've never even pointed out. I've pointed out 500 times. If everything worked in a Newton's cradle, then we wouldn't have any reason to have the argument because we'd all just see in the Newton's cradle that you can't create free energy. So obviously it's about uneven masses. The only time the subject is pertinent is uneven masses. When they're the same mass, we agree that whatever energy is, it's conserved. You think it's 1,000 joules, I think it's 500 momentums. So we don't agree on what the value is of the outcome, but we agree on how it was created. And it's only when you have differential masses that your free energy problem arises, because you're not going to conserve the momentum. You can't conserve both. When you change the masses, you can't conserve kinetic energy and conserve momentum. It's not possible. Alright, my point is you can't have this scenario with the same mass, which would need to move at a greater speed, thus more energy. Again, more energy by whose theory? I'm saying the gun is perfectly reasonable. The momentum is conserved. The recoil of the gun is the same momentum that the bullet has. I'm saying the lever works. It balances okay, a tiny mass far out and a heavy mass close into the fulcrum, and it's perfectly conserves momentum. It's perfectly rational. I'm saying momentum always works. Always. You're saying that in two bizarre experiments you can do, dropping round things into clay and doing this wacky cart thing, you can prove that momentum isn't conserved. And I'm saying, fuck you. Yeah, you can't prove the bowling ball going twice the speed, the 8-pound bowling ball going twice the speed of the 16-pound ball knocks down twice as many pins, because it doesn't. There was a cloud chamber in the accelerator to photograph the antimatter, supposedly. Oh, come on, will you just shut up? I mean, I really don't want to block you, but whatever this is, there was a cloud chamber in the accelerator. Well, I guess there would have to be some connection to reality. You know, there's no point in building the damn things if you're not even going to try to see what it's producing. But antimatter, you're saying he discovered antimatter in his piece of shit accelerator? Fuck you, too silly. Supposedly. I mean, why are you doing this? Why? I don't get you. Let's see. Wacky can thing. What? Wacky cart thing. God, you're such a reality denier. So how am I a reality denier? I mean, there's a blob of clay on the fucking cart, okay? Do you have an explanation for its presence? Yeah, no, I don't think you do. But anyway, I'm saying, if you really think it's possible, you think I can put 100 in and get 133 out. And then I can put 133 in and get 170 whatever out. And then I can put 170 in and get 235 out. You think that's the way reality works? I think that's wacky. Yeah. Absolute wacky bullshit. Silly, just absolute nonsense. You can throw the ball at the brick wall and the ball comes back with more momentum. Is your magical theory. So again, let's know the context. I mean, if there's any honest people in the audience, they've had 350 years to show us one fucking experiment, one circumstance where it takes 4 times the fuel to go twice as fast. So just one experiment where they show that to make this thing go twice as fast, I have to use 4 times the energy. They can't produce one fucking piece of experimental evidence that that's the truth. 350 years to do it, and they haven't produced one piece of experimental evidence. Not with pendulums, not with Newton's cradles, not with any device. Nothing. Nothing. No evidence. Nothing. I mean, the obvious one would be a car or something, just show us how much gas it uses to go 30 miles an hour and then show us how much gas it uses to go 60 miles an hour. And just show us that it took 4 times the gas. Simple. They could measure the electricity of a motor pulling and, show us it takes 4 times the electricity to move the object twice as fast. No, don't show it. Alright, it's your channel. If you want to spend your life like that, it's your choice. And yeah, it's my choice to just say goodbye to you. You don't have anything to say. So, just fuck off. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not doing anything disreputable. I'm not doing anything dishonest. I'm honestly explaining why I don't get you people. You believe in things and hope for things and pray to things that don't make any sense at all. You're sitting here, I don't even know how to describe the debauchery of what you're praying to. These totem poles of bullshit. You're humiliating yourselves, okay? And then you double down on the humiliation by implying that I'm guilty of something. That I've done some transgression against something, okay? By merely pointing out, why the fuck would I pray to a hobgoblin? I mean, what, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to pay the pixie tax, All this nonsense has I don't know what that is. Secluded chamber. Considering their own secluded chamber. I don't know what that means. But whatever. Yeah, I don't know what FF $ means either. But anyway, whatever. For a tree, I guess it's a sort of a reasonable comment considering a tree did it. A girl tree. It's a lot to ask. This isn't about chambers. This isn't about isolation. These aren't people like they're not 10-year-olds who grew up as a Quaker or something. These are people who can see the world and see what's in it, see how people behave, and see what they have, and do research and all that crap. Yeah, these people aren't, incapable of applying reason and logic. They wish to make the counter statement. I mean, they're OJ jurors, okay? They don't give a fuck about the facts. They want to make a statement. All right. You're picking on the poor black man, who's not poor and obviously wasn't in some way harmed, and maltreated by whatever white society in any way, given every opportunity to get fairly compensated for his skills and all of that crap. They're not defending any principle here. They're just cheating in the war. They can't do something honest, so the only weapons they have are dishonest ones. Because they have no integrity. They don't stand for anything. And unfortunately, a lot of human beings are just, they're not stuck in some chamber. They're just selfish fucks. And they just are looking, what's my advantage? What's to my advantage? And that's all they care about. It really is just, people just want problems to go away because it just complicates things. They don't want to have to take responsibility for driving faster or talking on their cell phone while they're driving, so they just make up excuses. Everybody else is doing it, blah, 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 to keep it convenient for them. And they did this in physics. So the whole commentary, right? So after 150 years of arguments, they basically decided that it's just semantics. That somehow they're saying that the physics is the same. mv squared and mv, same thing, same theory. It's just semantics. So that's how they describe the argument, as somehow they were saying the same thing and it was just semantics. When clearly it's two completely different understandings of the reality. Completely incompatible definitions of reality. And they turned it into, oh yeah, they were just arguing semantics. I mean, that's how the historians deal with it. They just pretend it wasn't a real fight. They pretend that somebody didn't actually have to steal the calculus, even in the Newton-Leibniz other battle. So the other battle with Leibniz was Newton's being accused, who was the originator of calculus. And the obvious conclusion is one of them had to steal it from the other. I mean, it's just a little too coincidental, okay, that they both composed the theory originally, in my opinion. And it's just overwhelmingly clear that the only party who could have got a glimpse of the other guy's thinking and processing was Leibniz. Leibniz has to be the guilty party. Because, yes, Newton's calculus was a secret, frankly. That only leaked out through a few people. And the same wasn't true of Leibniz. He didn't keep his calculus a secret. But they don't want it, I mean, they're rewriting that history now. They're right now in the process of converting Leibniz into a hero rather than a villain. I mean, a villain who, they have real hard evidence that he forged documents in his defense, that he tried to fake documentation to demonstrate that he had talked about calculus years before he published. All the facts don't matter because they want to create a fake narrative of reality. They want the world to be the fake world they want to live in, not the real world that they're imposing on the future with their selfish country. Alright, so it seems we've exhausted the audience. It cannot produce any relevant statements, so I guess I will be on my way. Hour and a half, that's not bad. So I guess we'll endure another minute and 30 seconds and see if anybody can say anything reasonable. 14 of them now. Should be capable of producing. Oh, it's only 13. Shit. Was 13 for a moment. It was a glorious moment. Oh, the other thing says 14 still. But it's probably all a Google lie. They're just sock accounts. Yeah. Be another great day. Grateful. Pukey sign. Whatever. It's another day. I mean, yeah, hopefully I don't, have some sort of whatever, some artery explode in my head. Some aneurysm explode. Ooh, wonderful. But whatever. yeah, hopefully something horrible won't happen. But it will someday. Just waiting for horror to knock on the door. Hello, it's horror. Yes. Somebody, I think, plowed into a parked car yesterday right down the street. You know, it was around the corner, so I couldn't see it, but you could hear the crash. You know, and the ambulances go flying down the road and all the bullshit. And you're just like, oh, fuck. But part of me was just saying, I hope it's one of those guys who drives down the street at 90 miles an hour, and I hope he's dead, frankly. I'm just so sick of these fuckers. Do you think it's possible that we lose all knowledge of science once civilization collapses? No. I mean, obviously, people will be like Mickey Iakaku's around. There'll be people who will just reconstruct it. They'll find an old iPhone and they'll get it to work and blah, 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 and do this and do that and blah, 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 blah. So you're not gonna, you can't undo writing in books. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can't go back to parchment or something. You know, you'll figure out how to make paper again. So, you know. But it's just the ugly horror of just even imagining redoing it all over again. Ugh. Go back to the Black Plague days and, you know, who wants to go ahead and have babies in that world. Ugh, disgusting. So, this is not good enough conversation, so I gave you some extra time and you just didn't do it. We couldn't you couldn't pull any physics arguments out of your hats. So anyway, all right, till the next time. And such and so forth and whatnot. Now hiccups now. Anyway, maybe I'll choke on a hiccup. Anyway, feudalism has kept its momentum. Well, whatever. It was worse. You know, there was more negative energy, you know, 400 years ago than there is now. I mean, you had to really watch some horrible shit back then. I mean, you know, we getting off so goddamn easy, you know. Oh, I mean, just think of all the, you know, the farm animals, all the dirty, all the filth, all the shit, all the crap, all the cruddy little smallpoxes and all the other crap. I mean, fuck, or your kids die all over the place. I mean, it's just, I don't know how people didn't just string themselves up. They probably just didn't have any rope. They were too poor. They didn't, you know, their clothes were too ragged to even make a noose out of. But yeah, I don't know how people survived at all. I mean, what the fuck they lived for. Shitting in the street and all the rest. That was just disgusting. Yuck. Yes, that's all you can do is gracefully dance through the disaster. But anyway, oakley doke. On that positive note. Yeah. Physics, people, physics. It's a physics channel. You have to talk some physics, please. All right, anyway, till the next time, and such and so forth.